It's easy to forget that Doom 2016 was something of a surprise. It had a troubled development cycle, what we saw in its early days didn't exactly look like Doom, and the first bit of it we got to play was its multiplayer, which not many people liked. Thankfully, it ended up being one of the best surprises of the year. Hey everybody, Jarek here. I have been eagerly awaiting Doom Eternal. I rarely get so excited about video games, actually I rarely get excited at all. But I have been incredibly hyped about this release, and that leads to a dangerous situation. If it's anything other than extraordinary, you're really disappointed. But even with my high expectations, it blew me away. I mean seriously, how can you not look at these trailers and say, that's fucking awesome? Graphically, Doom Eternal runs on the same engine as Doom 2016, but with quite a few upgrades. The game looks phenomenal. It's important to mention that the footage you're seeing here isn't as good as it can look. I was running on mostly high settings, with some settings being set on medium. I have a 980 Ti, so I'm in a weird spot where I can upgrade and I can justify it, but it's really hard to, because the 980 Ti is not necessarily a bad card, so I guess deal with what I have for now. Cue the console players to come in and say, this is why consoles are better, even though my rig is still better than the PS4 and Xbox One. Back on topic, Doom Eternal looks fantastic and runs flawlessly. I never had any stutters, never had any issues, and I only had one crash. That crash was a bit unfortunate.
The game crashed. Fucking bullshit.
That crash came right at the end of one of the master levels, and the reason it crashed is because I lost connection to Bethesda.net on launch day. Thanks Bethesda, that shouldn't fucking happen. So hilariously, the one crash I had in my 13 hours of playing Doom Eternal was Bethesda's fault, not id Software's fault. Anyway, the textures are high detail, the lighting is fantastic, the gore is adequately bloody, the animations are smooth. I'm not necessarily having the response of this game that I had when, say, Crysis first came out, but it still looks far better than most games on the market as of today, and fills its role extremely well. But the thing about the graphics that stood out to me wasn't necessarily how advanced the engine was, which it is. The thing that stood out is the art style. Doom Eternal is the first Doom game that I feel really captured that sort of foreboding atmosphere that both Doom 1 and 2 had. Yes, Doom 1 and 2 are extremely old games, yes they're running on pixel art, but they did manage to capture this sort of atmosphere that other games just couldn't do at the time. That music combined with the dark, cramped spaces just worked so well, and nothing really replicated that as well as Doom Eternal has now. This is strictly talking about the game's art style, not the actual gameplay, keep in mind. It's awesome to see that Hell on Earth idea fully realized. Yeah, Doom 2 was supposed to be Hell on Earth, but what the hell is this? This doesn't look like Earth. It's supposed to be skyscrapers, but this just looks like a bunch of Lego blocks made out of pixels. Ah, now this is much better. And your time spent on Earth is probably the least foreboding out of the entire game. I mean, look at this. Imagine being one of those people that you can't even see looking out of those bars. Trapped with nothing but bodies, can't even breathe, can't move. I love this game's art style in a really fucked up way. Next, let's talk about the story. And yes, there is story to talk about even though this is a Doom game. The too long didn't read version is that Earth is being invaded by Hell and you need to stop the hordes of demons, but that doesn't sell the story right. Doom Eternal's story is just as much about Doomslayer's lore and backstory as it is as much about stopping these demons. In fact, I would argue it's more about Doomslayer's backstory. My only real complaint is that I wish they went more in depth with this. We still don't really know who Doomslayer is, even though we got a lot of glimpses of his past. But I guess there will be 2 story expansions coming out sometime in the future, so maybe we'll get a little bit more. And yeah, there is a lot of stuff you can read in-game, but I mean, it's Doom. How many people are actually going to sift through all this and read it? Yeah, I'm that guy. I'm playing Doom. I don't want to sit here and read journal logs. I want to play the game. Don't get me wrong, it's awesome that it's there, and I love having more backstory and more lore to put into this awesome universe that id Software has created. But again, I want to play the game. Really though, the thing that surprised me the most about this story is that it's written so well.
For there is only one dominant life form in this universe, and it carries a steel-barreled sword of vengeance. All hail the coming of the Destroyer. The Slayer's time is now.
The character that says this in-game is a scientist. That's one of the main draws to the story, is seeing how the whole world reacts to Doomslayer. You turn on the radio and you hear Resistance broadcast reporting everything you've done in the previous level, as if you are their entire hope for staying alive. And I mean, well, you are. You walk through a facility and seeing everyone's reaction to you is just hilarious and awesome. id Software is very much so aware of how fans see Doomslayer. They see him as a god, and id Software is playing off of this. But it's more clever than that. Take for example when an enemy says this.
Who are you? A human, once a mortal, to defy our traditions.
Most heroes in other games would have said some stupid witty one-liner that takes you out of the game. Doomslayer prepares a demonstration. They even managed to give Doomslayer a deep personality without him saying a word. In between each level, you go to this place called the Fortress of Doom. This is Doomslayer's spaceship, which is really just a giant floating castle in space. There is so much to look at in here. You can see the weapons you've collected on the walls, you can see the action figures you've collected on the walls, you can even see the album covers that you found, which if you go up and press the use key, they'll play some old Doom music or old Quake music. There's just so much here. But more importantly than these collectibles, Bethesda has described this Fortress of Doom as Doomslayer's man cave. You can tell a lot about someone's living space, especially their quote-unquote man cave. I mean, you can figure out a lot just from my desk alone. You can figure out that I like dragons, and there's probably something a lot more going on there. More dragon stuff here. I like video games. I like the game Rivals of Aether. I like Pokemon. I really like the color red, and I'm a PC gamer. I mean, that's just looking at my desk. What can you gather about Doomslayer by exploring here? Well, you can see that he apparently skateboards. You can see that he plays guitar. You can see that he apparently likes rabbits, even though this is really just a reference to Monty Python. You can see this old DOS computer, so he probably likes old 90s games. There's even a quote-unquote Ripitorium, where there's just an arena in the bottom floor of his ship for him to kill demons when he wants. There's way more to look at here, but these things alone give Doomslayer more personality than we've ever seen in the past. Also, we see his face, which is new. And seeing his eyes reflect back in his helmet when you pick up a power-up just puts you in the mood to rip and tear. And speaking of rip and tear, we need to talk about the gameplay, which has been improved just as much as the rest of the game. Doom 2016 is an awesome base for combat, but Doom Eternal has added so much, I find it difficult to see myself ever going back. For starters, you get 2 boosts, and these recharge very quickly once you land, so you'll be constantly double jumping and boosting in and out of demons' ranges. Add the meat hook on top of the double barrel shotgun, which can pull you close to deliver 2 shotgun shells right into a demon's face, and movement has never felt better. On top of this, the meat hook will eventually light enemies on fire when you upgrade it enough. Lighting them on fire will give you armor back. Awesome! Remember how glory kills give you health back in Doom 2016, and chainsaw give you ammo back? Well, this has been doubled down on in Doom Eternal. Glory kills still give you health back, and they work basically the same as Doom 2016, and the chainsaw does still give you ammo back, but the chainsaw is a lot more useful. Your ammo pool isn't necessarily the biggest in Doom Eternal, so using this chainsaw is more important than it ever has been. Thankfully, you get more fuel to supplement this. The last thing they added like this was the Flame Belch, a shoulder-mounted flamethrower. If you light an enemy on fire and kill that enemy, it will give you armor back, so you need to do this often. This thing is on a simple cooldown, so you don't need to find any ammo for it, so really, use it when you can. You also have something that recharges called the Blood Punch. Get 2 glory kills and you have a blood punch charged. It's just a very strong punch as it sounds. But it does send out a shockwave and it's very useful to have, especially against some armored enemies, so you want to make sure you have one charged. They also added a shoulder-mounted grenade launcher, and once you've combined all of these things, it feels so satisfying. When you're able to meat hook to an enemy, blast him with a shotgun, light him on fire, shoot a grenade, blast him with a shotgun again, boost away, meat hook to them, blast him with a shotgun, then do a glory kill all in a few seconds, that's when this game really clicks. That's when this game is all you can think about. And I haven't even mentioned the upgrades yet. There's a skill tree that will do things like reducing the cooldown on your flame belch and grenade launcher while giving you more health, more armor, and more ammo. There's suit upgrades that'll do things like improving your freeze grenade, improving your movement, improving the auto map functionality to find secrets easier, or making you invulnerable to explosive barrels while making them respawn. There's runes that will do things like improve your aerial mobility, let you lunge into glory kills farther, or slow down time if you hold right click in the air. I personally didn't use that last one because I felt it ruined the pacing of the game a little bit too much, but I won't deny it is very useful. And then there are the weapon upgrades. So many weapon upgrades. As you should expect, the weapons in Doom Eternal are amazing. There's no reloading aside from the double barrel, which does it on its own, so you don't even have a reload button. You don't need it. They feel absurdly powerful, complement each other very well, and they're a good mix of new and old. Of course, you have old classics like the Super Shotgun, the amazing BFG, and even the old design for the original plasma rifle. But then you have weapons like the Ballista, which looks more like a Quake weapon thrown into Doom, and all of these just have amazing upgrades. The Super Shotgun can reload near instantly with an upgrade, and the meat hook will light them on fire with the Mastery upgrade. The upgrade for the plasma gun, which gives it an overheat blast, has come back, but you can upgrade it so that the plasma shots do more damage for a limited time after the heat blast. Every weapon in the game has upgrades like this, except for the BFG because it's overpowered enough. My only real complaint about this upgrade system for the weapons is that once you get all of the upgrades, the final upgrade is a Mastery upgrade. In order to get this one, you can't just buy it with points, you have to do some sort of specific challenge to unlock it. I hate it when games do this. I just want to play the game. I don't want to sit there and have to grind out 75 headshots with the sniper mode of the machine gun, even if the headshot noise is as perfect as you can get it. You will find mastery tokens to bypass this, but you definitely won't get enough to use it on every single weapon, only about 3 or 4. So yeah, I wish I could have just used the points to unlock the final ones instead of having to do the dumb challenges. It seems a bit silly to give you all these options to play the game and then to lock you into one path until you unlock whatever upgrade you want to get. It's a small complaint, but it's a complaint that is there. Nonetheless, you have a lot of upgrades and a lot of choices. For a while, you'll feel overwhelmed with how many choices you have. Even though the game introduces these things to you one at a time, you still feel almost overloaded with how many guns and lock up and go, what gun do I want to use with this demon running at me? But at some point in this game, something is going to click with you, and you're going to get into this trance of just slaying demon after demon, knowing exactly what you need to do, knowing that you need ammo, you know what to chainsaw, you know where the smaller enemies are, you know who to glory kill. Everything just flows so well, and from that point on, this game is all you can think about. Now you can understand what I mean by this game making it so hard to go back to Doom 2016. You have so many more options, it just feels bare bones to look at the original game we got. The same thing could be said about the demons. You have so many different demons, such a wide variety of enemies to slay, but that's where one of my biggest complaints comes in. I've been fanboying pretty hard about this game, I've made that pretty clear. I love Doom Eternal, but it's not perfect. I do have some complaints. The first one is not necessarily a complaint, but I wanted to briefly talk about it. The first time you see the Archvile, there's not really a cutscene or a big reveal. He just sort of shows up in an arena. You see a bunch of red enemies, you don't exactly know why, but you know they're buffed some way, and then you see the Archvile. And my first response to seeing him was, yep, he's still a cunt. I don't actually have any complaints about him, but you definitely need to focus this enemy. He'll still do a bunch of fire damage to you, he'll still spawn a bunch of enemies around you, you need to get rid of him. Usually I just use my Crucible to get rid of him, which I didn't mention earlier. The Crucible is an awesome sword weapon that will one-hit kill any enemy in the game. It has very limited uses though, and you have to pick these uses up throughout the map, and you only have 3 uses before you run out, so keep that in mind. But my real complaint, the biggest complaint I have with Doom Eternal, is the fucking Marauder. To make it clear, I'm not complaining that the Marauder is too difficult. That is not my complaint. I know someone's gonna come in and be like, oh, get good, but that's not what I'm whining about here. Defeating the Marauder really isn't that hard. He runs at you, his eyes flash green, you blast him with a double barrel, you blast him again, and then you boost away. Rinse and repeat. He does have that annoying ass dog thing that also attacks you in the middle of it, but still, the Marauder on itself is not too difficult. To explain him a little bit better, if you haven't played Doom Eternal, you can't do any damage to him unless his eyes flash green, and the super weapons don't work. His shield blocks everything. Unless his eyes flash green, which is for a very short period of time, you cannot do any damage. And the Crucible doesn't work at all. That in itself is fucking bullshit, but my biggest complaint about him is that it just grinds the game to a stop. If this enemy was just a one-time boss where maybe they threw 2 of them at you at once, I would have loved it. But throwing them in with the regular enemies fucking sucks. This game is supposed to be fast-paced. Movement, gore, guts, guns. This enemy stops all of that in its tracks. It's incredibly boring to fight him, and the game recycles this enemy way too much. Now I understand the lore reason for it. The Marauder was specifically made to fight Doomslayer, but when it hurts the gameplay, I don't think that's a good excuse for him existing. Fuck this enemy, it's not fun, it's really annoying. I want to fight the other ones, not this one. Give me big enemies, but don't make them that annoying. But that said, this is only one enemy, and it's the only valid complaint I can come up with. Doom Eternal is nothing short of a fantastic game. I know it's early in 2020, but by the end of 2020, Doom Eternal is definitely going to be one of the front runners for Game of the Year, and at minimum will be first-person shooter of the year. By the time 2030 comes around, we're going to be remembering this game as one of the best of this decade. This is not an exaggeration. The game is that good, and if you haven't played it, I would really recommend. Especially since right now it seems that multiple universes feel like hell on earth, and the universe with actual hell on earth is currently more enjoyable. We all sort of need an escape with this whole pandemic going on, and Doom Eternal is a great way to turn your mind off and forget about everything happening around you. Another amazing game for this if you're looking for something a little bit more laid back is Ori and the Will of the Wisp. I know this channel is mostly a first-person shooter oriented channel, but I also made a video on that, and it took quite a while, put a lot of effort into it. No one really watched it because it's not a shooter-based video, which makes it kind of sad, but that video is also just as good as any of my other ones, and the game is amazing. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend you watch that video, go click it up there, and also check the game out. It's awesome to just forget about everything happening around you. Both of these games have an amazing soundtrack, both these have an awesome art style, And really, you deserve to go play them. And I really want to be able to get the Doom Eternal soundtrack. We can't get it yet. I mean, the soundtrack is so good, it came with a free game. Anywho, that sums up everything I wanted to say about Doom Eternal. I love this game, if you cannot tell. I basically just wanted to gush about it in this video. Thanks to all you guys for watching. Thanks to all of you that joined me over on Twitch while I streamed this game, twitch.tv/Jarek4GamingDragon. If you subscribe, you get to see my videos ahead of time. Same thing for my patrons over on patreon.com/Jarek4. And I'll see you for my next video about Doom 64, which I will also stream.